Welcome. So in this video, I'm going to show you some cool effects that you can do with transparent and white by using layers of clear and kind of sandwiching the white paint in between. You get some very cool effects that way, and we're going to do a spiral galaxy and some galactic and planet effects. Now your painting isn't going to come out exactly like this one because these techniques are about creating something random and then using that to create a painting that is unexpected. So this is sort of some of the random stuff that happened for me. What's going to happen for you is going to be completely different, but the techniques are lots of fun to play with. All right, so let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to define where space is. Where's the dark? So we've got a spiral galaxy out there, so we'll add in some space and kind of a little spiral. Most of our light's going to be up in the left-hand corner, so we'll leave that blank. We'll leave a bunch of areas blank. And the places that we have not painted, let's fill them up with lots of clear coat. Look how much clear coat I'm putting on those spaces that are unpainted. And I'm dusting just a little bit of white on top of the clear, and then we go in with more clear and we move the white around. And what we get when that dries are some very interesting, random, squishy patterns in the white that we can then, before it dries, go in with a piece of poster board, curved or straight, whatever shapes you like to do, and add some detail to that. So I'm adding sort of parentheses around the interesting effect that I did. And if you go over those things that you then add in with a little bit of clear coat, they'll also kind of shift around and move around, and we'll get some very beautiful, delicate, random, sort of alien galaxy type effects. It almost looks like a backbone going through space, which is kind of cool. So now I'm adding my clear coat in the areas of the spiral galaxy that I haven't painted. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add a little bit of white on top of that. I can control where I add the white by using my poster board and spraying. I'm bouncing my paint off the poster board onto the painting, just making parentheses around a bright center. And then I can curve that poster board to make sort of concentric ovals. Use those parentheses, connect the ends of the parentheses, curving the poster board, and always add a bright shot of white into the middle. And because we have that transparent underneath it, it shifts around a little bit. It's not quite so steady. So just play with the effects that we're making, adding the white, using the poster board, the gushy, squishy, transparent, moving the paint around until you get something that's like, wow, that's kind of interesting. And when you like what you see, let's start adding a little bit of color. Now to add color, you're going to need transparent colors, and those are colors that you can see through very, very well. It may not say it on the can, whether it's transparent. Some metallics, like Krylon Metallic Blue, is often transparent. Test it out to make sure you can see through it. The fluorescent colors are often transparent as well. In this brand, the fluorescent colors are nice and transparent. You're going to have to experiment with the brands in your area. Molotov has some really nice semi-transparent ones if you want to buy Molotov semi-transparents. And you can see I just covered over certain areas. I covered over with a little bit of transparent yellow and a little bit of transparent green in the left-hand part of our painting. And in the spiral galaxy, I created a bright center, a little transparent yellow in the center, then a little bit of orange, and then fading into the green with a dot of white in the center that I created by spraying through a CD. And now I want to go in, especially to my galaxy, and really bring out the rings, but I also want to add some stars to my sky. Before I add the stars that I'm going to shake on with my palette knife, I like to spray through some poster board and add some stars in strategic places. And I'm going to go in there with some white paint first and add the rings back into my galaxy so we can see them, and I'll add some rings as well with black. Using the same technique, I'm bouncing it off the poster board. If you notice, I'm actually spraying it about 2 inches up on that poster board. If you want a bright light somewhere, all you need to do is spray out a shot of white and then cover it up with a transparent color. You can add an accent by spraying through a hole in a CD or a hole poked in poster board or a circle cut out. And I've created a big one with orange and a little one with yellow. Yours is going to be different. Look at what's kind of randomly happened in your painting and figure out where the bright light should go. So now another thing you can do is let your painting dry, because as it dries, it's going to shift and change. And then you can go back and add little accents. So I see that this looks a little bit like a mushroom here, so I'm going to start to accent that. And now what's going to show up for your painting is going to be completely different. Look into your painting and see if you see any shapes that you could turn into something or bring out. And you can bend that poster board. You can tear off pieces that are only just the amount that you need. Bend it around, use it straight, bend it at an angle, whatever you need to define the shape. And you can use white to add a little brightness, or you can use dark colors to add a little shadow. Like I'm adding a shadow here on the side to define where that mushroom is. Pick out some shapes and just make them a little clearer using your poster board. And make sure when you spray into that poster board that there's not so much paint that it's going to drip. If it looks like it might drip, catch it way before. Wipe it off, tear off another sheet. You can bend it like that. See, I'm bending it so that the side has a little bit of more of a flip in it. Whatever shape you need, you can bend that paper and get that shape. You can define it with black and white. You can define it with colors. Bring out some of the random things that have happened in your painting. And stars are a great way to add detail as well. Maybe this mushroom has a magic star inside of it. Clearly your painting is going to have stars in different places. Maybe they'll be inside an interesting looking alien galaxy. Maybe there'll be a stream of stars heading off into space. Use your imagination to create something really that inspires you, that you like the sense of movement, you like what you're drawing. Find things that you like in the randomness that happens when the paint dries after you move it around. So to make your spiral galaxy, you don't have to make the classic spiral shape. You can just make kind of like parenthesis. Like this galaxy is really, it's just like a lot of parenthesis around a center. It's not actually spiraling out. And then I'm defining some of those lines with a little bit of white, a little bit of black, maybe a little bit of a color, one of those transparent colors. And if you're patient and you just kind of enjoy yourself as you bring out the shapes and the things that you've created, you can make some beautifully detailed galaxies that people will be just like, wow, how did you do that? So in this galaxy, I wanted to add a little bit more sharpness to the edge, really distinguish it from the rest of the painting. So I added a little bit of red and a little bit of orange, because I haven't used much of those. In the other corner, maybe a little bit of red to kind of create a little bit of a magic feeling there with where those lights are curving around. Use your transparent colors to create all kinds of magic. They're so beautiful when they're sprayed on top of the white. So another thing you could do is you can create diagonally sparkling stars. A lot of times people create sort of like a star and there's a cross around it, which is the twinkle of the star, but the stars don't have to be straight up and down. They can go diagonally too. So we're going to make a few diagonal ones in this painting. I'm also going to add some lights to our galaxy. And so I've just shot down kind of 3 white shots of paints, but I'm going to give them all different colors, and I can control where that paint goes by using my circle cutout to make sure that I don't spray too much over the painting, that I just get it in the little area where I want. So I've got 3 little shots of color there, and we're going to put stars that have sort of a diagonal twinkle in each one of those. So to start off, I'm going to spray a shot of white by spraying through a poked hole in the poster board in the center of each one of these little things. And then I'm going to use my poster board and some white paint to spray 2 diagonal lines. And I'm going at the same angle that my galaxy is at. I'm following the angles in the painting. That's another good thing to think about when you think about your composition. Pick up angles that are already in it to accentuate. So we've got the galaxy, which is at an angle. It's like at about a 45-degree angle to the horizontal bottom of the painting. So we want to follow that angle with our stars there. We've got the lines are at that diagonal and at the other diagonal, crossing it at 90 degrees instead of straight up and down. And I think that gives the painting a sense of movement. You can use your poster board to add color in a controlled way as well. Anyway, now we've got our painting pretty well defined. It's time to start adding a few planets. So to do planets after you've painted a whole painting, you need circle cutouts. Basically, you take the plates and the caps that you have and you trace them on a thick piece of paper and you cut them out with an X-Acto knife. You just have patience and take a lot of time and get a beautiful circle if you're very patient. There's a board called Mighty Board, which is sort of a plastic paper that you can get at Sherwin-Williams, which will last a long time if you make these. So to make your planets, use your circle cutouts. Make sure you have the same cap that's the same size so you can put it back on. You basically are going to add either white or a color or a couple of colors, and then crumple some newspaper and brush it over or tap it on your planet, and then add a highlight on one side, which is usually white, and a shadow on the other, which is usually black, and you can add a little bit of a transparent color to blend in the shadow. In that case, I added a little bit of green. So let's do this again. I added white and then pink, crumpled up some newspaper, tapped it on. Now I'm going to add my shadow, black on the dark side, highlight white on the light side, and I can use a transparent color, in this case a little bit of orange if I want. Let's make this planet. Notice this planet I've put halfway on top of one of those stars. That when you put it halfway on top of a star, what you get is the sense that the star's kind of peeking out from behind the planet. So I've added some white and some pink. I tapped some newspaper on it. I added my shadow on one side, my highlight on the other side, and a little bit of transparent blue. And we have a planet. That's the planet procedure. So take a look at what you've created, and if you feel that something needs a little more highlight and shadow with the planets, you can put that on. Put the circle back on, hold it tight. You can add a little more highlight or a little more shadow, or you can even just redo the whole planet. If you wanted to redo this planet, you would just add white on top and then use the newspaper. There's no need to redo the whole procedure again. Now, if you want a smaller planet, you don't even need to add texture. Just take a CD or some circle, put white on the highlight side, black on the shadow side, and you can add a little bit of a color. In this case, I added a little bit of green, and then we have a nice small planet. Now this planet needs a little bit of light behind it. So I have the cap, I put the cap on, I spray some white or a bright color behind it, and then I'm going to add a transparent color, in this case a little yellow, and maybe a little orange too. It's up to you. And I can make it into a sun by spraying through a hole in a CD, kind of half over the cap, so that only half of that spray shows up behind the planet. And that makes it peek out. And if you want to add a little darkness to the front of the planet so that the white bright part is a little brighter, you can do that too. I add a little bit of green. You're not going to be doing exactly what I'm doing. These are just options that you have. So this one I want to put a little sun peeking out from behind it, so I can get in there with a piece of poster board with a hole poked in it and spraying through that hole, trying to get right up against the edge of the planet. I can get a little sun that's peeking from behind it. Now notice how I'm holding my comet making paper. I've got my thumb in it and my hands, my fingers around it. I can control the shape of the comet by squeezing my fingers, and I can control the opening by pushing my thumb in there. So I can make any shape I want. That's how I get good control of that paper to make my comets. When I spray that white in, when I spray the colors in, I'm bouncing it off the paper. So just for fun, adding another little planet here. Little white on one side, little black on the other, and we'll add a color, in this case a little orange. So now that little planet has a twin. So take a look at your painting. Does it need a comet? Does it need a star? Does it need a little galaxy? Does it need a planet in front of another? And just add those last details. You've got the tools now. I figured that this mushroom might have a little light reflecting off into space. Just some crazy stuff. So I hope you've enjoyed learning about these effects and that you create beautiful skies, cosmic skies for your paintings using all of this cool stuff. Can't wait to see them. Ciao.